The opposition team is in shambles after a strong message from Mother Karua broke the unity in the team. Welcome to Kenyan Media, where you get news updates as they break. And kindly, if this is the first time you made this channel, kindly consider subscribing. Now, the effort to unite Kenya's opposition behind a single presidential candidate for the 2027 election has entered a more complex phase after Mother Karua made it clear that she will not accept a deputy position. Her declaration delivered as opposition leaders begin early talks on a common strategy adds pressure to an already delicate process of power sharing among some of the country's most influential political figures. With President William Ruto expected to seek second term, the opposition now faces a harder task of balancing ambition, unity, and electoral strategy. Karua's position sends a strong signal to her partners in the emerging opposition alliance, which includes established leaders such as Kalonzo Musyoka, former Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i, former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, and Trans Nzoia Governor George Natembeya. By ruling out the deputy slot, Karua is setting firm boundaries around her role in the 2027 contest. She has indicated that she is prepared to support a united front, but only if she participates as a presidential candidate rather than as a running mate. This stance immediately reshapes internal calculations. In a coalition politics, the deputy position has traditionally been used as a tool to manage competing ambitions and to secure a regional political balance. Karua's refusal to consider that option reduces the flexibility available to opposition negotiators and raises questions about whether a single ticket can accommodate so many senior figures with a national following. Karua's decision is particularly significant given her role in the 2022 election. As Raila Odinga's running mate under the Azimio la Umoja coalition, she was widely credited with energizing parts of the electorate and also projecting a reformist image. Her performance elevated her national profile and reinforced her reputation as a principled and firm leader. By declaring that she will not play a second role again, Karua is signaling that the 2022 experience marked a turning point rather than a final chapter. Supporters argue that her acceptance on the deputy role then was motivated by the unique context of the election and the goal of unseating the ruling coalition. The current environment, they say, calls for a different approach, with the Karua seeking to lead from the front. This shift also reflects a broader recalibration within the opposition, with Raila Odinga no longer positioned as the automatic flag bearer. Space has opened for other leaders to assert their presidential ambitions. Karua's move is among the clearest indications that the post-Raila era of opposition politics will be more competitive and less hierarchical. The opposition coalition under discussion brings together leaders with a strong regional basis and a national recognition. Kalonzo Musyoka has long been a central figure in opposition alliances and commands loyalty in parts of eastern Kenya. Fred Matiang'i retains support from his tenure in government and is seen by some of the technocratic alternative. Rigathi Gachagua and George Natembeya each represent distinctive political constituencies shaped by recent realignments. In such a crowded field, the distribution of roles becomes critical. The presidential and the deputy slots are limited, while other senior positions offer less visibility and influence. Karua's refusal to accept the deputy role effectively narrows the available options and forces the coalition to confront difficult questions earlier than expected. Political observers note that this situation tests the opposition commitment to unity. History suggests that alliances formed too late under unresolved tension struggle to withstand the pressures of a national campaign. At the same time, suppressing legitimate ambitions risks alienating key leaders and their supporters. Kenya's stance also challenges long-standing assumptions about leadership within opposition coalitions. For years, senior figures have often been expected to compromise by accepting secondary roles in the name of unity. By rejecting that expectation, Karua is asserting that leadership should be negotiated on equal terms, not determined by a precedent of the seniority alone. This approach resonates with the supporters who see her as a symbol of integrity and consistency. They argue that her political career, which spans decades and includes service as a justice minister and a party leader, gives her the credentials to seek the top office. From this perspective, declining a deputy role is not an act of defiance, but a statement of confidence. However, critics warn that such firmness could complicate coalition building. They point out that elections against an incumbent demand discipline and compromise. Without a clear mechanism of resolving competing ambitions, the opposition risks entering 2027 divided, a scenario that would favor the ruling party. President William Ruto's incumbency looms large over these discussions. Kenyan history shows that unseating a sitting president is a formidable challenge, often requiring a broad and cohesive alliance. Incumbents benefit from visibility, established networks, and the ability to frame the national agenda. Against this backdrop, unity is not just desirable but essential for the opposition. Karua's declaration raises the stakes by forcing an early reckoning on leadership structure. The coalition must now decide whether it can accommodate multiple presidential bids through a competitive process or whether it will push for an early consensus. Some analysts argue that open contest within the opposition could energize supporters and legitimize the eventual candidate. Others caution that prolonged rivalry could drain resources and create lasting divisions. Kenya's recent electoral history offers cautionary lessons. Opposition coalitions that fail to manage internal competition have often splintered, weakening their chances at the polls. Conversely, alliances that achieved early agreement on leadership, even at the cost of sidelining some ambitions, have performed more effectively. Karua's own experience in the 2022 illustrates the trade-offs involved. While Azimio coalition presented a united front, it also relied heavily on established hierarchies that limited space for alternative leadership visions. The current moment presents an opportunity to rethink that model, but it also carries the risk of repeating past mistakes in a new form. And with the 2027 election still more than a year away, the opposition has time to navigate these challenges. However, Karua's early declaration accelerates the timeline for critical decisions. The coalition will also need to clarify its process for selecting a flag bearer, define the criteria for leadership, and manage expectations among its members. Possible scenarios include a negotiated consensus candidate, a structured internal contest, or the emergence of a parallel candidacies that test the coalition's cohesion. Each path carries implications for campaign messaging, voter mobilization, and fundraising. Karua's refusal to accept a deputy role matters because it exposes the core tension at the heart of the opposition politics. That is the balance between unity and ambition. So her stance forces a more honest question and a conversation about leadership, representation, and the future direction of the opposition. The outcome will shape not only the opposition prospects in the 2027, but also the quality of democratic competition in Kenya. A transparent and credible process could strengthen public trust and offer voters a clear alternative. A fractured approach, by contrast, would likely reinforce the advantages of incumbency. As the opposition weighs its options, the challenge is clear. Finding a winning formula will require more than strong personalities. It will demand compromise, clarity, and a shared vision capable of turning diverse ambitions into a single compelling campaign. That is all for today from Kenya Lens Media. Kindly, if you're new here, consider subscribing as a way of helping us and motivating us to be giving you contents from Kenya and beyond.